So, hey guys, today we're going to be talking about more just beginner unfriendly things happening, I guess, kind of in Yu-Gi-Oh! So, something that normally wouldn't happen in, let's say, like Legends of Runeterra. So, let's say we have some kind of destruction type spell or card or whatever. So, we'll go with like Raigeki. Normally, in like Legends of Runeterra, whenever you activate a spell, this is going to be a little bit more intuitive, I guess. The spell is just going to immediately kind of be activated, and then the, the spell is kind of being casted, and there's no like physical card or anything like that on the field, right? And this makes it easier to understand. Well, as well, because technically there is no backer removal in that game, like Mystical Space Typhoon, for example. You don't have any cards like this because there are no spell or trap cards to really target in that game. So you never have the issue of your new players targeting a resolving spell with backer removal because the game fundamentally works different and there is not even the opportunity to do this. So yeah, if for example, the classic example would be like specifically if you were attacking into someone, they have a set card, it's a mirror force, you chain MST, target mirror force, and then resolve chain. Mirror force will still destroy all your cards because MST does not in fact negate the card, it just removes the physical like card from the field, which is a little bit more confusing to an extent. But essentially, what's going on here is, well, whenever an effect activates, the only way to stop an effect is to make it so that condition is either no longer possible to achieve or to use an effect that specifically negates that card. But it's never actually explained in any of the tutorials, so yeah, that's kind of how that works. But there is a lot of room for misunderstanding because of how the game is designed and how you aren't really taught much in the tutorial, honestly. If I pull up my notepad, I think I can probably uh control C, or no, not control C, control F to see if they mention anything about negating, because I don't think it mentions anything about negating. But let's see. Negate. Does the word negate show up anywhere? Counter traps can be chained to other cards to negate. And that's it. That's the only mention in the first basic tutorial, I guess. At some point, it tells you that well, or kind of implies, or something like that, that counter traps can negate cards, but doesn't tell you about any other kind of negate cards. So yeah, that's insanely awkward. Do you think I actually need Solemn Judgment for Mirror Force, or maybe I could play around it some other way? But then, there's of course the complicated issue of Mirror Force was good and all. Like, in fact, you could argue it's still good when the effect actually activates, but there's just so much macro at the moment that, like just relatively decent macro. Let's see. Am I that bad at spelling? Or Ruma, not Uruma? Right. So we have cards like Destructive Durma Karma Cannon, which is pretty solid. We have like Infinite Impermanence, which is also pretty solid. Uh, Ice Dragon's Prison, pretty damn good. This is going to be like a 2-for-1 kind of card, right? Is it Ice Dragon Prison and not Ice Dragon's Prison? That's probably what it is. No, wait, there's like an apostrophe there or whatever. Okay. And technically, I guess we could also have like Book of Moon, Book of Eclipse, Super Poly, like just pretty solid macro in general. And maybe we still also have potentially some chainables and other types of macro. But yeah, as time goes on, we have a lot more like just solid back row. And then there's like stuff that's going to be solid for an archetype. Like if your opponent just specifically you attempted to stop your opponent from searching maybe Orcus Crescendo, but they just hard opened it anyways. And this would be an unknown in that case. But yeah. Some hard open kind of counter traps. I guess even Solemn is pretty decent in the correct circumstances. But yeah, depending on the exact card, it could be like, for example, if the set card is actually specifically Welcome Labyrinth, it's terrible to chain MST to this. So that adds a layer of complexity to the gameplay. But if you just snipe the card, like in this case, you snipe Derma Karma Cannon, Super Poly, Ice Dragon's Prison, and those cards would like bend you backwards, then it would be the right call, I guess, to do this. So it adds another element to the game, actually adding depth to the game, but because of this depth, the game becomes more complicated and you get more complicated kind of gameplay scenarios where it becomes harder for a newer player to navigate. But yeah, there's the issue of course, if we simplify the game too much, then it becomes unfun for all the veteran players who are actually used to all of the mechanics already. And at some point, we are going to also be increasing the amount of mechanics in the game or increasing complexity because people are going to be like adjusted, I guess, to what we currently have. And it'll get kind of stale unless we kind of the amount of, I guess, complexity in the game to an extent. And just having extra options is nice, and the more options you have to an extent, the more chances you have to misplay. So if we look at Sword Soul, for example, Sword Soul is like a monkey deck, pretty much. The only thing you could misplay, I believe, is if you were to summon Longwan too early. But yeah, aside from that, it's basically just normal summon Moyi, reveal whatever Warb, and then you would special summon the token, and then you summon Chixiao. And intuitively, you would always want to chain block this Chixiao because you have the idea of Moyi being a card that draws, right? So if we draw the card we want to search because we're not adding the card until a chain resolution, let's say I want to add specifically Longwan to my current hand, and my hand card is, I don't know, the reveal is Taya. Sure. Then if I draw into Longwan off of Moyi, well, then it'll feel like Chixiao searching Longwan will kind of suck because I'll just have two Longwan in my hand. So instead, if I go Chainlink 1, Chixiao, Chainlink 2, Moyi, I'll be able to, let's say, if I draw into Longwan or Blackout, either one's fine, but I can just add the other. So in this case, if I draw Longwan, I'll add Blackout. If I draw into the Blackout, I'll add Longwan, right? And that's kind of how they'll go. Because it's just so intuitive that you'll just end up chain blocking this from Ash Blossom Joe Spring like every single time. So yeah, pretty simple stuff, I guess. And pretty straightforward. The deck almost plays itself. And this also applies to something like an Exo Sister, where you're very heavily archetype blocked, and basically you just want to either make a rank 4 to search Martha or make Martha to search or to make a rank 4 to perform a search or like a card. In this case, it could be like Returnia. I guess if we started with Martha, going to Michaelis, search Returnia, that could be a line, I guess. If you have a body that you can special summon, I guess you can also special summon, I think it'd be Caspitel, and then, well, yeah, we can go Caspitel, normal summon a guy, special summon a guy, make Michaelis, and then go grab Eternia, convert these two into Magnifica. That's about it. Nothing super interesting. But yeah, some decks have really simple combos. Some have more complicated combos with like sequencing. Honestly, Memento, like regardless of like the whatever end board this will end on, there's just too many steps in this combo is how I feel about Memento. It takes like forever to do the combo. Like regardless if your opponent has like a play or not, or if you have a play or not, man, this combo takes a long ass time. But yeah, that's a kind of complicated, somewhat nuanced kind of combo to an extent, more so than others. But it's not necessarily the the most like nuanced dynamic combo. I would say that that title definitely doesn't go to Memento. There was another deck that was way more complicated than this. Don't remember it at the moment, but trust me, it exists. I mean, like, hell, I think Vendred is actually so ridiculously convoluted and kind of complicated that it might be more complicated than Memento, honestly. But yeah. Moving on. Back to the original topic here. Yeah, just because we're given so many options, we're never going to know exactly how things interact because there's also like difficult things regarding like rulings. And the card text is actually somewhat difficult to read. So, for example, recently I have misread this card, Ritual Beast Ulti Riritari. Neither player can tribute cards to activate a card or effect. So this is actually implying that any card that tributes for specifically cost can't be activated. Anything that tributes for effect can be activated, which is strange, very strange. I believe this makes it so Dancing Leaves can activate, right? Activate by targeting and then tributes by for effect right here. Yeah, this tributes for effect, so Ulti Ray does not stop this. Oddly enough. Because of this wording, does this work on perhaps fusion summon? So if I were to try to perform a contact fusion that specifically says like tribute like whatever cards, that doesn't work either, right? This also doesn't stop kaijus because it's not activating an effect either. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it don't work. But yeah, I mean, certain cards can also be worded weird. Like if I recall correctly, this card still has like some old ass crusty text. Activate only when a synchro monster is special summoned to your opponent's side of the field. Take control of that synchro monster. Remove it from play. Like it doesn't say banish right here. Remove it from play when it is destroyed. Destroy this card when that monster is removed from the field. So what does remove from the field mean in this context? So what if I Book of Moon that card, for example? What happens then? This just stays on the field indefinitely? Well, what if I Book of Moon that card and then remove that card? Does this still stay on the field? The correct answer, I'm pretty sure, is yes. But how would you know this as a new player? And does this actually impact the game? Sometimes. It might not impact like every single deck, but it could have an impact. There are also things like, for example, if we have, we'll go with this, Wave Hiking Caesar. Did you guys know that this card is in fact basically useless against Centurion? It's actually crazy. So let's go through the Centurion combo line real quick. I'll just do the basic one. Basically, we go stand up Centurion, and we want to make sure we have Primera, Udea, just like these three in general. Then we can put like Gargoyle in the back row, special summon Gargoyle. And then we just make Auxilla. Auxilla uses its effect to then grab a card, so it could be Phalanx, I guess. And then you set that pass end phase. You put Primera back into the back row, so you can special summon like Primera Trudea next turn, and then yeah, you can activate the field spell to synchro summon them into, I guess we'll go with Legacia. So now let's check at what point we can wave High King Caesar this. So on activation of this field spell, nope. True Day effect to special summon itself, nope. Primera effect to special summon itself, nope. Auxiliary effect to special summon itself, nope. The field spells effect to special summon the Legatio, no. So this is the only thing you can actually kind of negate, but you know why you can't negate this? Because Primera can chain block it. So we can go chain link 1, stand up Centurion, chain link 2, Primera. And you can't respond to Primera because you only have the effect to negate special summons. Now, can you even stop the field spell actually? No, wait. No, you can't. So it doesn't matter if you chain block this actually. Even worse. So the only card here you would be able to negate is actually Wake Up Centurion's effect to summon a token. That's it. So let's read this. When a spell, trap card, or monster effect is activated that includes an effect that special summons a monster or monster's quick effect, you can detach one material from this card. As cost, negate the activation, and if you do destroy that card, then you can make one other DD monster you control, and this card gain 1,800 attack until the end of the turn. So this is optional because it says can right here. But yeah, there's no hard once per turn, no once per chain on this. So you can just activate Wave High King Caesar however many times you like. But because this is technically a continuous, you can categorize all of these cards as kind of continuous cards. They actually never activated. They're activating an effect, not activating a card, which is actually categorically different because cards that are treated as continuous technically already activated, making it actually impossible for Wave High King Caesar to negate any of these cards because they're considered technically already activated, or they're not activating their effects per se, they're just using the effect. No matter how you spin it though, Wave High King Caesar just cannot negate a single card here because none of their effects are negatable because they do not special summon a card, or when they do the special summon, they're using an effect and not activating an effect or whatever, right? So yeah, pretty simple game, I guess. And Caesar kind of sucks in this instance, oddly enough. And then also at the same time, while we're here, just throwing this out there, if we were then to take a different category of like negate special summon type of card, because there are technically multiple categories, I would say. If we have Suravis, Soravis. Nope. I'll figure this out eventually. Sir. Nope. Suravis, maybe? Nope. Not spelled like this. Saravis? Nope. Well, let's use filters, I guess. Ritual. Dragon. Light. How do you spell this? S-A-U? Ah. Well, either way, Saravis has the effect of when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a monster you control, quick effect, you can discard this card, negate the activation, and then you have the effect of when your opponent would special summon a monster or monsters, you can return this card to the hand, negate a special summon, and if you do, banish that monster or monsters. So if you were to pen summon, this would be able to completely banish every single monster you pen summon. But in the case of Centurion, with how the ruling works, and this would apply to Solemn Judgment as well, because Solemn Judgment works the same as Saravis. If I were to normal summon Primera, well, this isn't listed on Saravis, so you wouldn't be able to negate that, but you would be able to negate it with Solemn Judgment. If I were to special summon Primera with the effect of itself, so we just place this in the back row with like either Stand-Up Centurion or Emblema Oath, this is actually fine because technically this already resolved the special summon. because the special summon is tied to the effect, and after the effect resolves, it's already been special summoned, so you can't really negate that. And then we have the only part of well that you can negate here is if we basically just special summon or synchro summon a synchro monster. If we just do that, you can negate it. So if we just use Primera plus Emeth, for example, special summon Auxilia, you can just negate that and it doesn't count as properly summoned. If we do like let's see, what was it? If we do the effect of Stand Up Centurion, you can negate this if this is Chainlink 1. If we actually put this as Chainlink 2, this misses timing, and whatever you special summon just doesn't get negated. Oddly enough, because this is a when effect. So if I were to summon, let's say, Legacia, we could do that, and you can't negate the special summon of Legacia if I were to go like, in this case, it would be probably something like Chainlink 1, Primera, Chainlink 2, Stand Up Centurion. You can no longer negate here. And of course, the way this is special summoned, you can't negate this special summon either. So you can make it so that Seravis cannot negate anything in the kind of Centurion combo. Which, you know, is kind of jank, but now, like, let's take it a step further. So let's assume I have two monsters on the field. We'll just, it doesn't really matter which two, but we will have two, all right? And we're going to synchro summon into just innate. So let's say Draco Berserker. Now, let's go Chainlink 1. Here will be Seravis. And Draco Berserker will not be able to activate because it's technically not on the field, right? But you know what I can activate? Cypher Gear Gamma from my hand. So, okay, let's think about this for a second. If my opponent controls Seravis and they're negating the summon of Draco Berserker, I can Gamma this despite Draco Berserker kind of showing up on the field. Why? Well, because it's technically not currently on the field. Because of Seravis's effect, this is technically within the summon window, where it technically has not hit the field yet, and this means I can activate Cypher Gear Gamma, which means that if we're playing at a high enough level, there's even the possibility of, well, not in the current meta, I guess, or current format, but when you're resolving Seravis, there are times where you'll have to think, wait, is this bait? Because if my opponent has Gamma here, I get completely railed. Because they can activate Gamma, despite kind of controlling monsters, but also kind of not controlling monsters. And this is something that wouldn't happen with like Solemn Judgment, because Solemn Judgment is a counter trap, meaning it's much more difficult to respond to. Which is also like its own kind of thing. So if we remove like game elements, the game would become simpler, but honestly, I think at the very least, it's kind of pretty damn cool that you can chain Gamma to Seravis just in general. Like, just conceptually, I think it's cool. That's just an opinion. There's nothing objective about it. But yeah, we have a lot of things kind of like this in Yu-Gi-Oh, which makes the game more complicated, and it makes it so like something small like this could lose you the game, kind of like just misplay in general. Whereas maybe you were better off doing some other action, like maybe using Book of Moon on the Draco Berserker would have been the better play, and then Seravis effect negating something else's special summon, oddly enough. And I guess Seravis could run over like a Draco Berserker by battle. But yeah, we're not even going to touch the flip rulings in this video, but I'll just say that they exist. And there's so many things about flipping, special summoning, negating, and all that you have to kind of like know for certain reasons. But yeah, if we do just remove entire elements of the game, it becomes simpler to play. Like that's probably partially why Genesis format just has links completely removed, just to kind of simplify the game a bit more for newer players. That's kind of reasonable, right? We also have pins removed to simplify the game for newer players or some returning players that maybe don't like those game elements as well. But yeah, if we were to remove counter traps, for example, that would make it a little bit easier as well to kind of get into the game for certain reasons, right? Like with the example of MST and Mirror Force, if we just didn't have any cards like MST, if we did not have backer removal, then we would never be able to destroy Mirror Force in the first place to have the misconception of maybe MST being able to negate Mirror Force by destroying it. But yeah, essentially though, in regards to that ruling, why that doesn't work is because Mirror Force's effect is already activated, regardless of if the card is on the field or not. It doesn't matter. That applies to like every single card ever. So, even if we fix the MST, not negating the Mirror Force, I guess there's also still the idea of this happening with a monster. So if you were to Book of Moon a monster that's activating its effect, or Raigeki break it or whatever, its effect will still resolve if it's actually something that's resolvable. Like maybe if it's like perform a fusion summon including this card on the field or something. Or yeah, I guess like Fallen of Albaz has that effect. If you were to remove Fallen of Albaz, right, yeah, it can no longer perform that fusion summon. So yeah, a whole lot of things that could really be talked about here. Now that I think about it though, why isn't there a flip fusion deck aside from like kind of ninja? Huh, strange. But wait, actually, wait, Shadal is the flip fusion deck kinda. I just forgot it existed because I haven't seen it in so long. Never mind. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.